Town Council meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the agenda approval.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Hearing a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The new business and action items is review and adopt the pedestrian and ADA improvement master plan presented by Darcy Hendon and Summit Engineering. Welcome, Darcy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can give you a brief overview. So for about the last year, we've been working on do you want me to do this?
Yeah.
On a pedestrian plan for the town of Pine Bluffs, and this was funded partially through a grant from YDOT. So our task was to identify some areas of town that didn't quite meet expectations for pedestrian mobility, and we gathered a steering committee and tried to identify areas that they thought that needed some attention. So we narrowed it down to 7-ish. There's an 8th one that's sort of hidden in there that I'll explain, but so we identified places in town, and then I did get some survey on a few things because I needed to understand better how much room we had to work with kind of what improvements we could possibly make. So and then we did a cost estimate for all 7 of those items, and included in there some grant strategies, some places where we've identified where you could get money for various things. Not all of the priorities qualify for all of the grant strategies. For instance, there's a Safe Routes to School grant that's administered through YDOT, but the improvements, say like on Main Street or Parsons Street, that wouldn't necessarily qualify for the Safe Routes to School, but some of the other priorities that do function or center around the school probably would. So I'm gonna not get these in the right order, but priority number 1 was near the swimming pool and the football field and the park, right? So a lot of the steering committee helped us identify that a lot of families are at the football field, and then the kids run across the street to go to the park during games, or maybe crossing the street to get to the swimming pool, and it's not necessarily the safest place to cross the street there. And I should back up one step. The first thing we did was took an inventory of all of the sidewalk in the entire town and identified where there isn't sidewalk, where the sidewalk is deficient, or where any of the ADA ramps at the corners don't meet current code. Maybe there's low-hanging trees or utility poles, that sort of thing in the sidewalk. So one of the very first exhibits is how much of the town doesn't fully meet current ADA standards. So the 8th Street area near the pool, that was identified as the #1 priority, so we put some plans together and some cost estimates to put in sidewalk around there and to put a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is the traffic control device where the folks push the button and then the light shines up, and it's got the diamond sign for kids to cross the street or anyone to cross the street, and moving some of the crosswalks to make that a more logical place, whether the person crossing the street is going to the pool or between the football field and such. So that was priority 1. 2 was Parsons Street, namely the area between around 6th, 5th, 7th, where folks are going across the street from the hotel to the restaurants and the bar and that sort of area. So identifying the location for some crosswalks there. And I did speak with YDOT, so Parson is owned, maintained, it's on the YDOT system. We do not meet the threshold for them to participate in putting any sort of traffic signal or where they would put in a rectangular rapid flashing beacon sign, but they're not going to prohibit you from doing so. You just have to pay for it yourself. And then all those plans, if we were to implement that, has to get reviewed by YDOT because it's their road. But Taylor McCourt, who is the district traffic engineer, said that he would be in support of that because you guys have seen that there's a lot of folks crossing the streets there. So as long as you install it yourself, they would allow that. That one also included sidewalk that goes all the way to 8th Street. There's some approaches, right? There are places where folks can walk. Sorry, if you're really familiar with ADA, but if you're not, there's rules for how much cross slope you can have, right? Because if you are in a wheelchair or maybe in a walker or can't see very well and you're used to walking on a pretty flat sidewalk and then a driveway approach comes up, there's usually a hump there where the 6-inch tall curb head, right, goes to 0 so the vehicles can traverse there. But if it's not designed correctly, then that makes it kind of wonky for someone who has low visibility or whatever. So there's approaches along the way that also need to get addressed so that the actual pedestrian route is an ADA acceptable path. So that's why some of those areas got larger, because then when you take 5 feet away for the sidewalk, then it gets too steep for the vehicles. So there's some plans in there that show where those need to get addressed. Priority 3 is the schools, around the schools. So basically all of the crossings of where any kid would use to get to school. So focusing on not just crossing to the school, but also how do they get from their neighborhood right to a logical crosswalk location to cross the streets there. So there's a lot of kind of scattered ADA ramps and sidewalk improvements around the whole school, several blocks around there. 4 is the ball field.
No, Main Street.
Oh, sorry. So Main Street right here. So obviously there's some issues with getting folks that are not as abled down Main Street, specifically at this corner right here to get up by the laundry area. So that I did have to get some survey and try to figure out the best way to do that. So a normal road looks like this, right, with the crown in the middle and then the sidewalks on the side. In order to bring this sidewalk up to an elevation that allows us to get in this door, because this area here does not meet ADA out front of this door, and neither,
Doesn't.
Really?
yeah.
Correct, yeah. In several instances, that's why our ADA entrance is on the back of the building.
Yeah, so this area is a problem, and then, actually the ramps and the sidewalk, or the stairs that are on both sides of this building, they do meet ADA requirements, but not the sidewalk at the laundry facility, and obviously you can't get from the street up onto the sidewalk there. So what I did was, instead of the road being like this, right, it starts like that, and then we kick it back up, so that the water, because the water flows to the gutters, the water is actually gonna flow to the rear of where those vehicles are parked, and then that allows us to kick the sidewalk back up and raise it just enough that I can actually get ADA into this door and the laundry door. So I think it's Appendix D is maybe explaining all of that in engineering terms. And it is designed based on a survey, so I know that it will work, but those are not construction quality drawings, obviously, but I do know that it will work. So we can address the ADA that's here. The laundry area, in order to, because that door is quite a bit higher than the door to this building, we're gonna have to do, and they call them bump outs, right? And you've seen them like probably if you've gone to downtown Cheyenne, where they extend the corner into the travel way, right, into the street, and it kind of goes out where the cars would park. and it creates more distance between the door and the sidewalk, so that allows me to get a pretty long ramp up to where that door is, so then folks would be able to traverse these whole 2 blocks, you know, from, north to south without having an ADA issue, and it solves the ADA issue into this building as well. So 5 is at the ball field. Sorry, I really should have written them.
Rec trails.
The rec trails.
Oh. Okay, so our steering committee, one of the reasons you wanna make a community pedestrian safe, right, is to also encourage walking, because that's better for your health. It helps folks get around town without getting in a vehicle. It can promote walkability, which maybe if you're walking to the bank and you pass by like a cafe, right? Oh, well, I'll stop in there as well. So it does help promote economic vitality to a community. And one of the things that the steering committee identified was it's not very easy to walk to the Bluffs and to get onto the trails there. There's obviously 2 ways to do that. One is through the, oh, thank you. Through the,
Rest area.
rest area, thank you. Or you can go on, the east side on Beach Street. So, but that one is not as well known, and it's not very clearly defined. So if we can get folks to walk on a sidewalk to there and then put a trailhead by where the town already owns some land, where the well head is, then you could get up into the, rec area. So that was identified as a priority for the steering committee. And then access to the rec areas through the
Rest area.
rest area. Yes, so why not, interestingly enough, put ADA ramps when they rebuilt your interchange? I don't know if you ever noticed, they have ADA ramps there, but you can't actually get across there because they don't connect. So, and that is now illegal for them to do that. You're not allowed to have a place for a pedestrian, but nowhere for them to cross the street, right? Because if you're like maybe in a wheelchair and you get across the street, but you can't get out of the street, and now you're in the street and have to go back around. So they can't do that anymore, but probably that wasn't quite the rule then, but now, and so you may be able to convince them to help you with some of this because of that fact. But to get folks all the way down, between downtown and the rec areas, entrance over there. And then the 7th priority was just around 2nd Street, and that mostly is, while kids are playing ball or families are walking that direction, to create a sort of a trail system or a way for them to be able to get into that ball field area, because right now there's no ADA ramps or sidewalks to promote that. So just that is something that would be nice as amenity, but that was why it was number 7, because it wasn't identified as the highest priority at all. But then while we are doing that, and that's why I'm saying it's kind of hidden, because in that 7th priority, we also said, well, let's just fix up all of the ADA locations on Beach Street so that you can get from the trailhead, you know, to the ball field. And then also that's the swimming pool area, right? So let's make that one continuous path, so that is not just immediately around the ball field, but also addressing the ADA along the Beach Street completely. And then one thing that we discussed was getting sidewalks and folks to the Prairie View area. That is gonna be a little bit longer range plan is what they decided, so it wasn't listed as a priority. We have to create a sidewalk crossing of the railroad tracks, which is possible. We did talk to YDOT about that. They have to put special, it's basically like a sidewalk on top of the rails so that you don't have more than a 1/4 of an inch gap, because that's the rules for ADA. So YDOT did say they'd be in favor of that as long as we put it where the crossing is now. If you wanted to make a new crossing, that's going to be much more involved between the YDOT and the railroad, and will take a much longer time. So if we focus it on where that crossing is now, then they said they would help you do that. But our steering committee, which did include Austin, did not identify that as a priority. So that is the plan in a nutshell. Be happy to answer any questions. I know that was speedy through there.
So, how did you What was the rationale for deciding the priority of each project?
Well, we met at our steering committee, and then everyone kind of discussed what they felt was the priority, and then I made a map and sent it out to the folks on the steering committee and said, why don't you guys rank these? So it was kind of anonymous. And then it was actually pretty close for everyone. For sure, number one, at the pool was identified as the first priority. And everything only just varied by maybe one or two, but that's how we did it was. And then we got back and we discussed it, and if anyone needed to arm wrestle to like get their way.
The other question I had was, as far as, I think it was priority number 2. What is YDOT's minimum traffic in order to qualify for assistance?
I do not remember that number, but I do know when I talked to Taylor, there was only one place in the state that qualified for that, and it was somewhere in Jackson where they had a lot of, because it can't just be like on Pine Bluffs Day or Frontier Days, or, it has to be continuous throughout the year, so.
I just wonder how
don't-
do they establish that? I don't think they're measuring that, are they?
I don't know, I will have to look into it, because I don't know, it's in their pedestrian guide, but I don't remember the number, so.
But it's a pretty high threshold.
It is very high, yeah, when I mentioned Parsons Street to Taylor, he was like, yeah, there's no way it's gonna qualify, so. If you had a festival every weekend for maybe the whole year, one side or the other, we could get it to go. But I would say, though, if YDOT does decide, I know they repaved Parsons not super long time ago, but if that ever does need to happen again, because this plan is in place, then we could say, we've already identified that we need pedestrian facilities on here, and they would very likely pay for that to put it in. I don't know that they would pay for that rapid flashing beacon, but that's something they would certainly let you add, but they would pay for the sidewalks because it's been identified. I don't know if you wanna wait that long till YDOT redoes that, cause it's probably not in their STIP for the next 10 years, but.
I'm gonna show my ignorance here. If we adopted the plan and we say we had funding for priority 3 instead of 1 or 2, it's okay for us to proceed in that fashion.
It is, yes, because it's based on funding and available funding and the grants that you may or may not be able to secure because of those, so, yeah, certainly.
The other thing with the plan is now that we have identified different, say different corners that are not ADA accessible, but maybe the sidewalk at that corner is, then we can even work it through our normal budget every year to maybe knock out 4 or 6 corners a year, just in our regular budget. I know that's not a ton, but when you're talking about a long run like down Beach Street, we could certainly address those.
And there's a brief discussion in here as well about how do you go about wrapping your heads around funding things like this, right? So a common strategy is if there's development action, then that developer is responsible for bringing up what's in front of their property to code. But in order to do that, you have to define what the rules are. So you would have to, as a town, say, all the sidewalk has to be 5 feet wide, and all curb has to be this type, right? If you can put that in your town code somehow, then you would be able to make someone accountable for that if you put that in your code as well.
What is the ADA width of a sidewalk?
3.5 is the bare minimum if you're going, like between handrails. But if you're going parallel to a street, it has to be 4, and they really encourage 5. But there's like, for instance, on, near the bar on Parsons Street, there's the curb, and then they have a little retaining wall that's maybe only 2 feet high. That is 4 feet. You would be able to put it there, and because that does meet the minimum, right? If you have several blocks of 4 feet wide, you actually are supposed to give basically passing lanes, so that if 2 folks in a wheelchair are trying to go by, they can pull over, basically. That's part of the federal rules, but you can get away with 4 feet for a block length downtown for sure.
And that also includes no obstructions. So everywhere that we have a few areas where maybe the sidewalk is wide enough, but we have a power pole right in the middle at a corner, that would need to be addressed.
And on the 8th Street plans, which I think are appendix B or C, there's a couple of locations, and I did talk about, you can leave the utility pole rather than move it, because in those instances, you have the room, and it's cheaper to just make the sidewalk wider around it, you know, as opposed to moving the utility pole, but that would be certainly up to you if you want to pay to relocate some power poles or not. That's why I did get a survey on 8th, because I didn't know where the property line was, and actually the fence for the ball field is inside the public right-of-way, so there's more room there than, it looks like you have to put a sidewalk in. So,
How far away is that new shot put thing from the fence?
Oh, it's right, I think right up against it.
yeah, there's usually a lot of encroachments on public right-of-way when that happens.
Thank you, Darcy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. You put a lot of work into this.
Yeah.
I move to adopt the pedestrian and ADA improvements master plan.
I'll second.
Hearing a motion and a second to approve the ADA master plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The second item under new business and action items is ordinance 2026-02, the annual appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2027.
It was actually, under the workshop portion of your agenda, I have, all the figures for the, first reading of the, FY '27 budget. We have made a few recommendations, for increases in various utility rates. As you are all aware, each of our utilities is a standalone enterprise account. It must be able to support itself in its entirety. And the same is also true of our airport. We have several departments that fall under the general fund, and the general fund revenues are made up of a variety of taxes, like property tax, motor vehicle taxes, sales tax, cigarette tax, mineral royalties, gas tax, and things of that nature, as well as a variety of charges for goods and services, whether that be fitness center memberships, recreation receipts, EMS receipts, cemetery receipts, or fines and forfeitures from the police department. All of those make up our general fund revenue. It doesn't mean that the fines and forfeitures that the police department collect solely support the police department. If that were the case, then you would certainly have a lot of complaints about all the tickets they were writing for citations, traffic citations. But at any rate, all of those fees and taxes feed into that general fund. And the general fund is comprised of our general town administration, our police department, streets and alleys, the recreation department, parks and common areas, the cemetery, and emergency medical services. While we anticipate a slight reduction in property taxes for the different residential properties, overall it appears that our projected revenues will be a little bit higher because we are adding in property taxes from adding in our new development out north. So it's odd, but until those properties sell, the town will be paying property taxes to the town on those lots. Well, they'll be paying them to the county, and we'll get our town portion of that.
So, that's why there'll be an overall increase that started with FY '26, because that's when we had the final plats for all those different properties. So, some of that increase will just be a wash. We anticipate some increases to things like, some of our sales taxes. And I think that overall, our general fund will maintain a steady revenue stream from FY '26 to FY '27. With that said, we have had several increases to expenses, just due to general inflation, whether it be to our liability insurance, to our natural gas costs, or to different testing and compliance fees that we have to pay. Information technology and cybersecurity, of course, increases every year, especially that cybersecurity component. And as always, there are increases to our fuel costs and things of that nature. Pretty much whatever you see as an increase to your own personal finances, you see as an increase to our general fund. Something that we have not discussed before, but it's certainly open for discussion again, is whether or not we will be charging to operate our pool again this year. I know that in the past, our governing body has been divided on that. While it doesn't, certainly doesn't pay to operate the pool on an annual basis, it could definitely be, any revenues for that could definitely be earmarked as going into a reserve account to pay for the pool resurfacing, which needs to happen every 10 years.
Did we do it like 4 years ago? Or did we do it last?
I want to say, yeah, it was about 4 years ago. Or 5 years ago, 2021.
Okay. And what was that, about 80, 100,000?
It was,
How much was it?
The cost of doing it.
I want to say it was about 200,000.
I was way off, sorry.
Do we cover the pool in the off-season?
We do not.
Is there a merit in considering that?
We can, I don't think it'll save, that we keep the pool full, and while some of it evaporates off, and then in the springtime, we have to drain it and clean it, and I mean, it would probably save us on some man-hours to clean it, but we would still have to, keep it full underneath that cover and all. We'd probably have less dead squirrels.
How many dead squirrels do you get?
6.
Is that
14.
higher than normal?
I don't know.
14.
I don't know.
We have a few every year.
Just squirrels,
That's
not
just
like
sad.
rabbits?
Yeah.
Or mice, it's just squirrels.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to tell at that point, but,
I'm sure
it's
it's
a
why is
squirrel.
it just squirrels? Are they dumb
but
or
yes,
smart?
we could definitely look at covering it for the winter months. They used to cover it, I believe, years ago.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so,
I just was wondering if there was any merit to it. If there's not, then certainly there's no reason to consider it.
yeah.
Probably more for like heating if you did it every day, right? Like that's really the only,
Yes.
And I think that there'd be substantial savings in that, because the covers for heating aren't that expensive, and the evaporation rate is, when nights when we're getting down into the 50s and
Absolutely, yeah. They make
we're losing a
they make
huge
some
amount of
insulating
energy out of
covers
that
that are
pool.
designed to just keep the heat in during the summer months, and that would definitely help offset that natural gas bill, which
Yeah, which is always,
We used to have one, I remember them pulling,
Yeah.
it's been a while, I'm assuming, but I do
Yeah.
remember that.
I'm assuming that whatever covers we had, whether it be for heating or for the winter, are
destroyed.
probably just,
long gone.
aged out,
Right.
Or
dry
damaged
rotted,
in the
whatever.
I wonder if you had a floating cover and it went over to the edge, and you could secure the perimeter.
Yeah.
You'd probably keep the critters out, cause they could
I would
run
think
across
so.
the surface of it.
Bubble
Or
wrap.
you get more.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Worse.
It's like bubble wrap that's
Which
got
is a
reflective
trap, you've got them
material
all in
on
the
it.
middle.
At least that's how my parents' pool was that way.
So, but there are definitely some ways that we can look at, improving our expenses. I know that the recreation department has also taken other measures, to improving their, the expenses, but, for every improvement they come up with, you know, natural gas goes up a little bit more, so. But at any rate, I think that, you know, the last time that we did a fee analysis, you know, I think we raised, gosh, was it 10 or 15,000?
That's what I was thinking,
from
like
selling-
$12,000.
Selling the ticket sales, and I know that some people were concerned that, you know, families that couldn't afford it and all that, but I can tell you we had several people donate individual and family passes to the pool for Pine Bluffs residents. You know, I know we had a couple of businesses donate, a couple of individuals, and then we also had a county commissioner that donated several passes. So I think that, I really don't, we have never turned anybody away because they couldn't pay to enter the pool.
What's the current rate?
It's free.
What's that?
Isn't it free, what last year it was?
Last year it was
Last year
free.
it was free.
We have a lot that come from out of town because we're free. I mean,
And it
Well,
gets
another-
overcrowded with
exactly, yeah.
out-of-town
And now,
people.
isn't one of the pools in Cheyenne closed?
Yes, the
So-
Johnson pool is
Yeah.
closed. I
Cheyenne,
think they have that as a
Grover.
six-penny project
It
to
is.
rebuild it.
Yeah.
But that'll still be a few years at least.
Well, probably.
Well, I have really mixed emotions on if people are gonna use something, it's good if they have some skin in the game, because I think they treat it with more respect. But at the same time, it's a really neat benefit to the residents of the town to have a pool that's free, and so
I
I
think
have real
for the
mixed
residents.
emotions
Can we
on
look at
this.
a resident
I-
versus
I really
non-resident? They have
yeah,
that in
and
other
that's-
places.
Someone once had told me,
And I would
when I was
love to do
asking, they
that.
said anyone who lives or in Pine Bluffs or is part of Laramie Two would get a free pass.
You know,
And
I
how do
think
you
it could be
police
limited
that?
to
In Pine Bluffs,
those
they're
that
paying
pay
sales
taxes
tax,
to live here.
property
That is
tax.
just what someone had said once.
You know, if they're paying their town bill, they're paying property tax in this area, they're paying for the pool, they're paying,
I agree.
like,
You need to be a resident.
yeah.
Yeah,
And donate to who can, like, I'm more than happy to pitch in as well for those who can't afford a pool pass, or to make sure kids aren't going without the pool, but there's a lot from out of
Yeah, it's
town that
not
come
fun
in
to go.
because we're free. I see it on the Cheyenne Rants and Race page, like, oh, Pine Pool's free, load, like,
Load
We're
up
d-
your
yeah.
van
Yeah.
and head
yeah,
on
we're
down.
headed out, yeah.
Yeah.
usually it's in the early part of the year that's the
Yeah.
case, because the attendance falls way off in
It does, yes.
end of July, into
Yeah.
August. You'll look over there won't be that many people in there. But initially in the summer, early weeks of the summer, it gets loaded
Yeah.
up.
Well, it does, and you know, if you also think of it in terms of those that live here and those that don't, you know, it's, those larger numbers, are adding to that wear and tear, not just to the pool itself, but to the pool house, the lockers, the showers, restroom facilities, all
We have
that.
to have more staff there. The more people there are, you have to have so many lifeguards per, you know.
Then perhaps it can be people who attend our school in Pine Bluffs, cause I know there's a lot outside who are still part of this community, even though they don't live in town.
That's true, but they also don't pay our property taxes.
I'm well aware of that, and usually I'm always been gung ho for charging, but I guess I kind of view it as you charge for everybody, you charge for no one.
Okay.
Just because
No,
we have
understood.
so many kids in our school who just live right outside town, but are still here.
True.
Participating in all of our events and school activities that,
True.
I don't know.
What did we charge several years ago when we did charge?
It's like $1.25 or $2. I
Yeah,
can't
it
remember.
wasn't.
I don't-
Yeah, it was a
Wasn't.
dollar.
It was
and
a
change for
dollar
visit.
something, and then we had passes for like a family
Yeah.
was $100 for the summer, and
It was still very cheap.
individuals were like if you just wanted to get a pass for your kid, it was like $25 for the summer or something.
Well, they changed to the punch cards,
Oh, yeah,
and I think the punch card was, oh gosh,
It was like
where's Sonia when I'm?
10 for 10 punches and
$60 is stuck in my mind, but I don't know why.
it might have been 60 for a family.
Maybe a family.
And 40
Yeah,
for an
maybe.
individual or something like that is what kind of bounces around in my mind, but
Are you texting her?
I hear what you said, Dennis. It's a nice perk. But it would be nice if we were collecting something to kind of help offset some of the expenses we incur. Even if it's a trivial amount, like, I don't know, $1 a day or 50 cents a day. Just something that would maybe help offset a few of our expenses. And I'm all for a family pass or even a summer pass too.
Yeah,
That would
Sonia
be
had it all
cheaper.
broken down, I think, last year.
yeah.
I mean, we didn't charge, but she had it ready to go. Imagine it'll be about the same this year.
I can ask her to attend our workshop.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That would be good.
Okay. And also, as an expense, we have to the employee health care benefit, there was an 8% increase. So to offset that increase, instead of the, single rate, employee having $1,000 deductible, we have opted to increase that deductible to $1,500. And that would keep our rates pretty much the same, from year to year. So it's, not quite the same incentive to the employee, but I think the fact that it saves a considerable amount to the budget, just a little bit more enticing for us to take better care of ourselves, and
I think that's still a very reasonable deductible.
it absolutely is a
I
very
was
reasonable.
in favor of that because that's still, as far as deductibles go on medical plans, that's still fairly low.
Yes, it is, still an excellent deductible.
And it pretty much leveled the cost of the increase, so.
Yep, it
That was
absolutely
why
did.
I was in favor of that.
And then we still left the stipend the town portion that we pay to the, single +1 rate and the family rate the same. So there was no change there. And for budgetary purposes, you will see the proposed payroll per benefit, per department, tab on your spreadsheet, and you can review that to look at the different wages that are being proposed. And those all feed into each of the individual departments.
And I wasn't quick enough to get us to go into add executive to tonight's agenda. So can I now request that be added to next week so that we can discuss that and some of the Blue Cross changes and personnel?
Yes.
Since we can't amend now to add it, so
No,
I'm
I can
requesting
put
now
it
for
on the
next week.
next agenda.
Perfect.
Yes. The other thing I just want to point out in the police department is that I did not budget for a K-9 for this year. You know, as you all are aware, our K-9 handler will be leaving us for this fiscal year, and even if we had somebody that was interested in taking that position, you know, by the time we recruit, bring somebody on board, get them trained, find another dog, all of that, if we elect to do that again, it just is not, it doesn't seem to make sense to add it to this year's budget. It's something that we can look at in the future if we can even, afford to have that as an option again.
Great.
Our airport is supposed to be self-sustaining. Right now, it is not. However, with that said, our local match for projects could potentially be a little bit high. It's just, I know that is our local match for projects, but it may be the local match that is needed for the federal fiscal year. So I might need to break that down a little bit further before I commit to that number. But even if it is a little bit high, it still isn't gonna get us to break even in our airport.
When we're considering that local match, a few years ago, we did that like transfer of funds to Newcastle's airport
Yes.
because we had it and we weren't using it. Is that like,
That has
that
nothing
doesn't,
to do
okay.
with this, no.
I was hoping maybe like a
I know,
friend
that would be
could help us
awesome,
out
but
this
yeah,
time.
that's actually our federal money.
Okay,
And so normally for a project, the federal covers 90%, state 6%, local 4%. For our big runway project that we have coming up, the state was able to support us a little bit more, and so our local percent will be 2.5. But 2.5% of a $4-point-some-odd million project is still a pretty good chunk of change. In this fiscal year, we will be starting with the design phase of it. In addition, it's also the local match to a couple of minor pieces left over of other projects. But that's not the bulk of it. We have requested match money on our ballot, so hopefully that passes, and that will cover us for that runway project and a little bit more for contingency in case it goes over. But we do need to somehow cover our shortfall, and, you know, increasing hangar rent or fuel rates are not gonna make a hill of beans a difference. I mean, we can still look at that being a possibility, but that won't make enough of a dent to get rid of this shortfall. So while I haven't plugged it into this budget yet, I do believe that the general fund is probably going to have to help subsidize that.
Do we have any ideas of what we can do going on to possibly meet that shortfall or
Right.
close the gap a little bit?
Annually, we are usually able to come closer. We can usually get our budget to balance, but we usually end up with a shortage at the end of the year. And I don't know, maybe Alex can help weigh in on this. Isn't that pretty much an airport problem, Wyoming-wide? I mean, Cheyenne helps subsidize that airport, don't they?
No, it's pretty much self-sustaining.
Is
The
it?
only way that Cheyenne is, we have these things called MRGs.
Mhm.
And they're minimum rate guarantees that are paid to air carriers. That found its way onto the 6 penny tax 1 year. Because those things come from Mama and Papa, which are the city of Cheyenne and the county. County paid theirs, the city put theirs on the 1%. And, so that's where the support, the outside support came from.
Got it, okay.
The Cheyenne Airport at least, manages to survive because it has like 75 to 80 leases. And we don't have that out here.
No, not at all.
We used to with 1 or 2 places there. So, there's no landing fee here, there's probably no way to get one. You got fuel sales, you know, you're pretty much stuck with maintenance and upkeep of a minor nature, you know, coming to rest on the town, and if it's a big deal, you know, then it's gotta be grant funded. So, and, you know, we've been fortunate to have people that are committed to it, that kinda keep track of what's going on there and help
No,
out.
absolutely,
Don't
yeah.
charge for it, you know, so. I wish there was a better answer for that, but, you know, there just really isn't. Most of I mean, we have some property that could be leased out there, rented, and we have, I think we still have, is his operation a through the fence operation? Or
He's on the airport.
he's on
Yeah,
the
He's on
pay.
airport property.
That's about where it ends,
Yeah,
right there.
that is, that and the crop dusting company,
Yeah,
so, but that's pretty much it.
so, yeah.
One of the things that had been floated a while back was, I know this will cost something initially, is putting in Jet A.
Yes,
And the Air Force had said that they would fuel
yes.
in Pine if we had Jet A.
And the town paid to design the Jet A add-on,
Okay.
and, we actually were going to initially use some, unanticipated funds to cover the cost of that. And shortly after we released it for bid, the, rules changed on, fuel tanks, fuel storage tanks out
Course.
there. And so what we anticipated as being less than a $300,000 project turned into over a $500,000 project.
Because of bureaucracy, basically.
Yeah,
Yes,
double.
because of now the new requirement for fuel tanks. So, we were not able to meet that requirement, but we have the designs.
That's too bad.
We can make that happen. And we can get some partial funding for it, since it's an add-on to the existing fuel station. But it is so far down on the WASIP because of requirements to, resurface the runway, the taxiway, rebuild the apron, and then some other required, projects that I don't see any funding coming available for that anytime soon. By the time the funding comes available, we're gonna be looking at more significant cost increases for that.
I know one of the things that affects the airport's revenue is how many takeoffs and landings are recorded in a year. And I think, doesn't that affect what YDOT contributes to the airport cost? And I think that we had significantly more takeoffs and landings than we had previously been recording. And I was wondering where where we were on that threshold.
So, are you referring to how they divvy up the 10%?
Yes.
You know, I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check.
It would be interesting
Yeah.
to look into that a little bit and see what,
That pretty much only comes up when there's a major project.
okay.
Yeah, that won't affect our annual amount.
It won't affect the annual,
No.
because I know it when Mark,
A major project.
when Mark has his new facility operational in Prairie View, he's gonna pull out the manufacturing stuff that he has in the airport, and he's gonna focus more on maintenance in that facility, and we could see an increase in traffic from that. You know, it's an unknown at the moment, but
Sure. And we
but
can,
there's some hope
you know,
there.
I can look into that to see if it will make a difference in anything. But
We need more rentals out there,
yeah, we
but
do.
it's gonna cost money to develop that.
Well,
We
people
have
don't,
more hangar space, we could,
get your construction crew together and,
well,
yeah.
the FAA makes it difficult to have inside the fence operations.
Outside the fence operations are
They don't want
Yeah,
those either.
they're
they're prohibited.
DOA.
pretty much,
Yeah, I mean, hangars, take a while to recover the cost, but, you know, if they last long enough, you can pick up a few bucks that way.
Having a maintenance option on site makes our airport very desirable for flying into and storing airplanes at, if we had the facilities to do it. But we'd have to build more hangars to do that.
For sure, I mean, there's always guys looking to have annuals done, and I used to go to Alliance, Nebraska. And, I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think that shop got shut down.
Alliance,
Yeah. There were, some of the surrounding shops were rubber stamping annuals, and the FAA got wise to it and shut them down, so there's a number of them have gone away. In the meantime, Mark and his team, they've secured a number of, certifications now. They can do avionics, they can do major overhauls, they can do a lot that wasn't there, so hopefully we'll start to see some bigger things happen.
it really helps. I don't think there's anybody in Kimball anymore. Walt Witt was over there for years and years and years, and everybody went to Kimball to get their
Yeah.
annuals done. You know, he did a good job. You'd have brown screws in the white part of the wing and white screws in the brown part of the wing, but nothing major.
Yeah. Well, I know that he just put on another avionics guy, so they'll be able to do avionics. They can do pedostatic testing now, which the nearest one was in Denver prior to.
He could probably pull a fair amount of business out of Cheyenne.
They're gearing up for it. But he has a hangar in Cheyenne too.
Right.
But he's working on trying to secure a deal with Frontier Airlines to do their maintenance in the Cheyenne facility, which would be huge.
Short of building more infrastructure, I don't see how the town doesn't continue to supplement the airport.
No, absolutely, we have to supplement it pretty much every year.
I wonder if there's grants or something we could get
For operating?
for like putting in hangars or whatever. I know that was an absolute no for a while there, and then we managed to come up with money to put in more hangars, so. How that works, I don't know.
Well, I think that it's just something, we actually have it on our, capital improvement plan, that we have to submit annually, and we do that with YDOT and the FAA. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting pushed because needed
Yeah.
repairs like the runway and stuff come up before it.
What other fun news do you have for us?
What's that?
What other fun news do you have for us?
Well,
That
that's,
airport's a tough one.
that's really the worst of all of it is there at the airport. And then, you know, just, working through, a few other details, for a couple of the different utility accounts. But other than that, I think that, you know, I think our general fund, will be stable and, that we won't have to decrease any services that we provide to our customers.
Thank you for this work.
And Sonia responded with, a family pass was $75, an individual pass was $40, or you could get, punch cards, and, punch cards were $10 each, and they were good for 7 visits.
Did you just sell the punch card here in the town hall, or?
We sold them at the town hall. We also sold them at the grocery store, in case somebody wanted one on a weekend. And then towards the end, we started making them available, for purchase at the pool. I know that initially they didn't do that, and there were some people that were frustrated because, you know, they were here for, you know, just the weekend or something like that. So,
Yeah, the process improved as they went along.
yeah, but they were readily available.
So I guess we need to move first reading, right?
Yes.
Okay. I move to adopt ordinance 2026-02 on the first reading.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second to adopt ordinance 2026-02. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. On to visitor comments. Do you have any visitor comments? No. Hearing none, we'll go on to department reports.
Nope.
How about you, Dave?
I don't really have anything to report either.
I have nothing new either.
Actually, nothing for me.
Nothing as well.
I don't wanna change a thing.
I only have one small thing. I just wanted to remind you all that our candidate filing for elections starts May 14th and it only goes through the 29th. And that will be for the mayor position and 2 council members. So Dave's and Amy's. So any community members, you can come in town hall and I have the forms.
So it's myself and Dave and Amy are the only ones up?
Yes,
Okay.
that's all I have.
How about you, Kim? Do you have anything? Anything
Just,
else?
Well, in addition to the budget and, finishing up the audits, we have, you know, the 3 different audits going on right now, but, I don't know if y'all remembered about 8 months ago, the, Department of Audit Public Funds Division had requested a listing of all of our credit card transactions, not just us, but every entity that has, every public entity in Laramie County, from like July 1st of 2023 through May of 2025.
Oh, boy.
And so, we provided all of that, like, again, several months ago, and they have come back with a sample request. So we are working on that to provide all those samples and get them to the Department of Audit this week. In addition to that, again, with the budget and the north property sewer lines are moving right along. So that project is on schedule. I would like to say that on the north property, we have had an individual approach us about lot 15. And let me grab the map and.
Shut down.
So, lot 15 is this very small, half-acre lot. We were initially going to hold lot 15 to use as a proposed playground to put at the end of the greenway. And, we have been approached by somebody that is interested in purchasing that lot. We had discussed a potential price for the lot and all that. And since then, we've also had some internal discussions, about the usefulness of that lot, considering the height of Bourbon Street and the approach that would be needed to get in there. We are working on the zoning ordinance for this area, but because it's a commercial lot, I'm not quite sure how this would fall into play. I believe that the individual that is looking at purchasing this would be interested in putting an Airbnb on that lot. So with that said, I guess my recommendation is that if you are remotely interested in considering moving forward with something like that we maybe ask for, some kind of a plan, like what would this look like? How big would this be? Would it be just the one unit? Making sure that it's not like, and I highly doubt this is what it would be, but if, is this gonna be a mobile home looking thing, a tiny home looking thing, a stick built? What kind of a Airbnb would it look like? And, you could consider it as possibly a good transition from the commercial into the residential area. How would parking take place at this Airbnb? Like I said, how much useful lot space is there? So, again, if it's something you all would like to consider, we definitely can, but my recommendation would be to have more of a plan to understand, what that would look like.
I would think that we'd want to see a pretty solid proposal of what they're intending to do, because it's hard to make a decision based on, well, maybe whatever, so I would want to see a solid proposal.
Okay. Alex, if we were to sell a lot, is that acceptable to do, to see the plan before we sell it?
I think in general, yes. Is this going through the third party,
Yes, it is.
sale?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't need to worry about bids and that sort of thing?
No, we don't.
Yeah, you can find out what you need to find out.
What do you guys think?
I like that idea. We need to jumpstart selling lots, and so I think it's worth considering whether this is a reasonable proposal or not.
With that said, for jump-starting lots, in case some of you haven't noticed, on the different real estate sites out there, like Realtor.com, you're gonna see a handful of lots that are listed for sale with a house on it. We have partnered with another agent who is also works as a developer that would be interested in working with a buyer to sell the lot with a house on it. The house will not be pre-built. It will be There are just some renderings on there of what they are proposing would look good on a lot of that nature. So we have not sold the lots to this other Realtor, we haven't, made any other deal, they're just, putting another option out there for folks that don't quite know how to just purchase the land and then start the construction process on their own. So this opens up another avenue for, property sales. And it also doesn't tie up those lots, so if somebody really wanted one of those particular lots and they just wanted the land and they had their own builder, they could go that route too.
Great.
And that's all I have.
Our next meeting, I guess we'll have our workshop at 4:30 on Tuesday, May 26th. And then our regular meeting immediately following that at 6.
Leanne, I will not be able to be available on
Oh,
the
okay.
26th,
Okay,
so.
I'll mark it now. Okay.
That it? Hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That.